November 22, 1963. Dallas, Texas, 12:30 in the afternoon. A single rifle shot echoed across Dealey Plaza, and the world changed forever. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was the 35th President of the United States. Young, charismatic, and wildly popular. At 46 years old, he was the face of a new American era. But Kennedy had enemies. His administration had clashed with the CIA over the Bay of Pigs disaster. He had stared down the Soviet Union during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he had made powerful adversaries within organized crime. In the autumn of 1963, Kennedy's political advisors urged him to visit Texas. The state's Democratic Party was fractured, and the 1964 presidential election was approaching. Texas had 25 electoral votes. Kennedy needed them. The trip was planned for November. 3 cities in 2 days: San Antonio, Houston, Fort Worth, and then Dallas. The most politically hostile city on the route. Dallas was a powder keg. Just weeks earlier, United Nations Ambassador Adlai Stevenson had been spat on and struck with a protest sign at a speaking event in the city. Right-wing extremism was surging. The Secret Service was on edge. On the morning of November 22nd, a full-page advertisement appeared in the Dallas Morning News. Bordered in black like a funeral notice, it accused Kennedy of being a communist sympathizer. The president read it over breakfast at the Hotel Texas in Fort Worth. Kennedy turned to his wife Jacqueline and said, quote, "We're heading into nut country today." Then he paused and added, "But Jackie, if somebody wants to shoot me from a window with a rifle, nobody can stop it. So why worry about it?" Those words would prove to be a grim prophecy. At 11:40 that morning, Air Force One touched down at Love Field Airport in Dallas. The sky was clear, the sun was bright, and the bubble-top roof of the presidential limousine was removed. The president wanted the thousands of people lined the streets of Dallas. The motorcade was 10 cars long. Kennedy and the First Lady sat in the rear seat of the open-top Lincoln. Texas Governor John Connally and his wife Nellie sat in the jump seats directly ahead of them. The route had been published in both Dallas newspapers days in advance. Anyone who wanted to know exactly where the president would be and exactly when simply had to read the paper. The motorcade turned off Main Street and onto Houston Street, heading directly toward the Texas School Book Depository. Then it made a sharp left turn onto Elm Street. The car slowed to barely 11 miles per hour to... For anyone watching from above, the president was now a slow-moving target. 12:30 p.m., 3 shots rang out across Dealey Plaza. The first shot missed. The second struck the president in the upper back, exiting through his throat. The third shot hit him in the head. President Kennedy slumped forward. The First Lady climbed onto the trunk of the limousine in a state of shock. Secret Service agent Clint Hill sprinted from the follow-up car and leaped onto the back of the moving limousine. He pushed the First Lady back into her seat and shielded the president's body with his own. The driver accelerated. The limousine raced toward Parkland Memorial Hospital, 4 miles away. In the back seat, the First Lady cradled her husband's shattered head in her lap, whispering to him. He never responded. At 1 p.m., 30 minutes after the shooting, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was pronounced dead at Parkland Memorial Hospital. He was 46 years old. The news spread across the world within minutes. Television and radio broadcasts interrupted their programming. Walter Cronkite removed his glasses on live CBS television and announced that the president was dead. His voice broke. Cronkite's words echoed across a nation frozen in disbelief. 2 hours after the assassination aboard Air Force One at Love Field, Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States. Jacqueline Kennedy stood beside him, still wearing her blood-stained pink Chanel suit. She had refused to change. She said, "Let them see what they have done." Her words cut through the chaos with devastating clarity. Oswald was 24 years old. A former United States Marine who had defected to the Soviet Union in 1959, lived in Minsk for nearly 3 years, married a Russian woman named Marina, and then returned to America. He was a walking contradiction, a self-declared Marxist living in the heart of Cold War Texas. Oswald had been employed at the Texas School Book Depository since October. On the morning of November 22nd, he arrived at work carrying a long package wrapped in brown paper. He told a coworker it contained curtain rods. It was not curtain rods. Inside the paper was a 6.5mm Mannlicher Carcano bolt-action rifle. Oswald had purchased it by mail order for $19.95 under the alias A. Hidell. At 12:30, Oswald was on the 6th floor of the book depository. He had built a sniper's nest using stacked cardboard boxes near the southeast corner window. The window overlooked Dealey Plaza. The motorcade route passed directly below. Within 90 minutes of the shooting, Dallas police recovered the Mannlicher Carcano rifle on the 6th floor. 3 spent shell casings lay on the floor near the window. Oswald's fingerprints were on the boxes and on the rifle itself, but Oswald denied everything. During 12 hours of interrogation at Dallas Police Headquarters, he insisted he was innocent. He told detectives he was a patsy, a fall guy set up by forces he could not name. His claim would echo for decades. 2 days later, on Sunday, November 24th, Dallas police attempted to transfer Oswald from the city jail to the county jail. Live television cameras were rolling. Millions of Americans were watching. As Oswald was led through the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters, a man stepped forward from the crowd. His name was Jack Ruby. He was a local nightclub owner. Ruby shoved a .38 caliber revolver into Oswald's abdomen and fired a single shot. On live national television, the only suspect in the assassination of the president was murdered. Oswald died at Parkland Memorial Hospital, the same hospital where Kennedy had been pronounced dead 2 days earlier. He was 24 years old. Whatever secrets he carried died with him. Jack Ruby claimed he had shot Oswald out of grief. He said he wanted to spare Jacqueline Kennedy the pain of a trial, but many people did not believe him. Ruby had known connections to organized crime figures. The timing was too convenient. The access was too easy. 1 week after the assassination, President Johnson created the Warren Commission to investigate the murder. Their mission was to find the definitive truth and reassure a traumatized nation. It was led by Chief Justice Earl Warren and included future President Gerald Ford. They had one task: find out what happened in Dealey Plaza. After 10 months of investigation, interviewing 552 witnesses, and reviewing thousands of pieces of evidence, the Warren Commission released its final report in September 1964. It was 888 pages long. The conclusion was definitive. Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. He fired 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. There was no conspiracy. Case closed. But the commission's most controversial finding was the single bullet theory. According to the report, one bullet, known as Commission Exhibit 399, struck President Kennedy in the upper back, exited his throat, then entered Governor Connolly's back, shattered his 5th rib, exited his chest, passed through his right wrist, his left thigh. Critics called it the magic bullet. They said no single bullet could have caused 7 wounds in 2 men and emerged nearly intact. The bullet recovered from Connolly's stretcher at Parkland Hospital was almost perfectly preserved. It weighed only 1.5 grains less than a brand new unfired round. Single bullet theory would become the most debated piece of forensic evidence in modern history. Then there was the Zapruder film. Abraham Zapruder, a Dallas dressmaker, had brought his 8mm Bell and Howell home movie camera to Dealey Plaza to film the motorcade. He captured 26.6 seconds of footage. It was the only complete visual record of the assassination. Frame 313 of the Zapruder film shows the moment of the fatal headshot. The president's head moves violently backward and to the left, backward and to the left. If the shot came from behind, from the book depository, why did the president's head snap backward? This single observation gave birth to the most enduring theory in the Kennedy assassination. There was a second gunman, and he was firing from the front, from the grassy knoll. 51 witnesses in Dealey Plaza told investigators they believed shots had come from the grassy knoll area, not from the book depository. Several witnesses ran toward the knoll immediately after the shooting. They reported smelling gunpowder behind the wooden fence. In 1976, the United States House of Representatives created a new investigation. The House Select Committee on Assassinations spent 2 years re-examining the evidence. In 1979, they delivered a stunning verdict. The committee concluded that President Kennedy was, quote, probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. They found acoustic evidence suggesting 4 shots were fired, not 3, and that the 4th shot came from the grassy knoll. The Warren Commission's lone gunman theory was officially challenged by the United States Congress itself. The conspiracy theories multiplied. Each one offered a different answer to the same question. Who wanted John Kennedy dead? Theory 1. The CIA. Kennedy had publicly threatened to splinter the Central Intelligence Agency into 1,000 pieces after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. CIA Director Allen Dulles was fired. The agency's covert operations in Cuba were shut down. Many within the intelligence community viewed Kennedy as a traitor to national security. Theory 2. The Mafia. Kennedy's brother Robert, the Attorney General, had launched an unprecedented war on organized crime. Mafia bosses Carlos Marcello of New Orleans, Santos Traficante of Tampa, and Sam Giancana of Chicago all had motive. Giancana had even helped the CIA in a botched plot to assassinate Fidel Castro. Theory 3. Lyndon Johnson. Kennedy's own vice president stood to gain the most from the assassination. Johnson became president. He reversed several of Kennedy's policies. He escalated the Vietnam War, generating billions in defense contracts for Texas-based companies. Some researchers pointed to Johnson's long association with corrupt Texas power brokers. Theory 4. Cuba. Both pro-Castro and anti-Castro factions had reasons to want Kennedy dead. The CIA's anti-Castro Cuban exiles blamed Kennedy for abandoning them at the Bay of Pigs. Meanwhile, Castro himself had publicly warned that American leaders who plotted assassinations could become targets themselves. Theory 5. The military-industrial complex. Kennedy had signed National Security Action Memorandum 263, ordering the withdrawal of 1,000 military advisors from Vietnam by the end of 1963. He intended to pull out entirely after the 1964 election. The Vietnam War was worth billions to defense contractors. Kennedy's withdrawal would have shut off the money. Every theory pointed to powerful institutions with motive, means, and opportunity. But none could be definitively proven. The evidence trail had been systematically contaminated. The evidence problems began immediately. Kennedy's body was removed from Parkland Hospital before a legally required autopsy could be performed in Texas. The Dallas medical examiner was physically blocked from examining the body. It was flown directly to Bethesda Naval Hospital in Maryland, where a controversial military autopsy was conducted by pathologists with no experience in gunshot wound forensics. The president's brain, which was removed during the autopsy and could have definitively proven the direction of the fatal shot, disappeared from the National Archives. It has never been found. The presidential limousine, the most important crime scene in the case, was not impounded for forensic examination. Instead, it was sent to a Ford Motor Company facility in Michigan and completely rebuilt. New seats, new windshield, new interior. Every trace of physical evidence was destroyed. Oswald's Dallas police interrogation lasted 12 hours across 2 days. Not a single minute was recorded. No audio tape, no video, no stenographer's transcript. The only record of what Oswald said comes from the handwritten notes of the key witnesses died at an alarming rate. In the 3 years following the assassination, 18 material witnesses died. 6 by gunfire, 3 in motor accidents, 2 by suicide, 1 from a cutthroat, 1 from a karate chop to the neck, and several others under circumstances described only as natural causes. An actuary hired by the London Sunday Times calculated the odds of 18 material witnesses all dying within 3 years of the assassination. The probability was 1 in 100,000 trillion. In 1991, filmmaker Oliver Stone released JFK, a feature film arguing that the assassination was a massive government conspiracy. The film reignited public fury and led directly to the passage of the JFK Records Act of 1992, which ordered the release of all assassination-related government documents. The National Archives began releasing documents in batches. By 2017, over 5 million pages had been declassified. But entire sections remained redacted, blacked out, classified on grounds of national security. Even 60 years after the event, the government refused to reveal everything it knew. In 2017, President Donald Trump authorized the release of the final batch of classified JFK files. But at the last moment, the CIA and FBI requested further delays. Some documents were held back yet again. The agencies argued that releasing them could still compromise national security sources and methods. The question that haunts every investigation is simple. If Oswald truly acted alone, why would any documents still need to be classified 6 decades later? What could possibly be so sensitive that it still threatens national security? The question remains unanswered to this day. What we know for certain is this. 3 shots were fired in Dealey Plaza at 12:30 p.m. on November 22, 1963. The 35th President of the United States was killed. One man, Lee Harvey Oswald, was murdered before he could stand trial. No trial, no cross-examination, no defense testimony, no verdict from a jury of peers. The most consequential murder of the 20th century was never adjudicated in a court of law. Jacqueline Kennedy oversaw every detail of her husband's funeral. She modeled it on Abraham Lincoln's funeral 100 years earlier. A riderless horse with boots reversed in the stirrups followed the caisson through the streets of Washington. Her 3-year-old son, John Jr., stood on the steps of St. Matthew's Cathedral and saluted his father's casket. The image broke the nation's heart. Kennedy was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. An eternal flame was lit at his grave. It still burns today, more than 60 years later, a permanent reminder of a presidency cut short and a mystery that was never solved. Every poll taken since 1963 shows the same result. A majority of Americans do not believe the official story. They do not believe that Harvey Oswald acted alone. 60 years of investigations, hearings, declassified documents, and forensic re-examinations have failed to change that. The assassination of John F. Kennedy is not just an unsolved murder. It is the moment America lost its innocence. Before Dallas, most Americans trusted their government. After Dallas, that trust began to erode. Vietnam, Watergate, Iran-Contra. Each scandal built on the foundation of doubt that began on November 22, 1963. Dealey Plaza still stands, largely unchanged. The Texas School Book Depository is now the 6th floor museum. Tourists visit the 6th floor window every day. They look down at the spot where the motorcade passed. They stand on the grassy knoll. They search for answers that have eluded investigators for 6 decades. Some cases are never closed. Some questions are never answered, and some bullets echo forever.